Now, I want to tell you a story. This is a really important story because it becomes central to this training series. The story I'm going to tell you is a real story. It's a story about two churches, and these are real churches. I know both of these churches myself. I have been in them. The first church I want to tell you about is what I call an ordinary church. Now, this church is located in one of the major cities of the world. I'm not going to tell you where, but this church, year after year, remained the same size. They had no vision for evangelism or outreach. They were focused totally on themselves. They would gain a few people, lose a few people, but year after year they remained the same size. They planted no daughter congregations. They were in a community for 15 years and remained just a single congregation, no daughter churches at all. They raised up no new leaders. They trained and sent out no new workers. They had no vision for the unreached people that were around them, and therefore they reached none of them. Just an ordinary church. Do you know the world is full of churches like that? In fact, your church may be like that. As I travel in many countries, the majority of the churches I find are like that. They're just ordinary churches. They are not really making a difference for Christ. This church was in a community, as I said, for 15 years, and they made no impact on the community at all. But now, let me tell you a story of a second church, because the second church I want to describe is no ordinary church. It is a powerful church. It's what we call a Great Commission church, or sometimes we refer to them as impact churches, because these churches tend to make a powerful impact on their communities. And that's what this second church did. Now, they won hundreds of people to Christ. They became a very large congregation. In fact, some of the people they won formerly were drug addicts and prostitutes and members of gangs. Some of them had spent time in prison. But church number 2 won them to Christ. And listen to this. The new believers that they won, they powerfully discipled, so that many of those new believers became strong, powerful Christians. In fact, some of them soon became leaders in the church. Some of them became dynamic workers. Some of them were trained as church planters and sent out. And so this second church produced many daughter congregations. But they also had a burden for the unreached people around them. So they trained and sent out missionaries. Remember what a missionary is? Yeah, they trained people who went to other cultures in order to make disciples and plant churches. And so this second church reached a number of the unreached people around them. It is a powerful church. Do you know that one day the mayor of the city came to this second church? Now, it also is in a very large city, so the mayor is a very important person. Do you know why he came? He came to present them an award from the city. He stood before their congregation and he said, "I want to thank you for being a church in our community." He said, our community is a better community because of your church. And then he told them something they didn't realize. He said, "Did you know the rate of crime in this part of the city has come down drastically because of your church? Because your members have won to Christ so many of the problematic people." And he presented them an award from the city. Now, let me ask you a question. Which of these two churches do you want your church to be like? The first church, the ordinary church, or the second church, the Great Commission church? Well, I've asked that question all over the world, and I've never found anyone that wanted their church to be like the ordinary church. No, everyone wants to be a part of something significant, something powerful. Now, I want to make you a promise. If you will listen closely to all of the training that goes on in this series, if you'll think about what we teach, if you'll take good notes, and if you'll do what we teach you to do, I want to make you a promise. I will show you how to build churches like church number 2.